Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Hard Claim with Viva La Sam. I'm Sam, and this is a show where we talk to people who play Blood on the Clocktower and get their perspective of the game. And joining us this week is Robert. Robert, thank you for joining.
Hey, no problem. Big fan.
Appreciate it. All right, so you said you would like to have Out and Evil loaded by our good friend Manny. I have sent out characters. You drew the Snake Charmer token.
I did.
So Snake Charmer gets to go pretty early on night one. Please pick a player.
I'm picking seed 8. Whoever the heck's in seed 8.
Seat 8. Well, nothing happens.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so with that said, it is day one. What would you like to claim?
I'm probably the general or something. I'm claiming general. Something I could hopefully get away with for a little bit while I pick 2 or 3 days and then chicken out.
Excellent. Is that how you would normally play Snake Charmer? Just kind of go for a few days and then, yeah.
I think so. It depends on the size of the game and game state and stuff, but I'm not afraid of becoming the demon. I'm probably half of me is hoping I am, half of me is hoping that I don't hit the demon, because it's good information, and it definitely can make things really difficult to navigate if you become the demon all of a sudden. But that's fun too. So
right,
go for it.
What I will say is, I sent out characters. I didn't swap tokens like I normally would have. If I had swapped tokens, you would have become the evil imp. But instead, you just hit the lunatic.
Okay.
So that close.
Good enough. Woo!
All right. So, how long ago did you discover Blood on the Clocktower, and how did you discover it?
I first heard of the game when Shut Up and Sit Down did their review, and Quinn's was really effusive and enthusiastic. I think he might have called it the best game ever. And I was really intrigued and excited by that. But I didn't end up, that was maybe 5 years ago or so. I didn't end up playing the game until several years later than that. I think I maybe saw a circle that was playing it at the back of a local board game cafe, and just kind of was tangentially aware of it, but hadn't played it until probably spring of 2021.
Were your first games in person or online?
They were online. It was during the pandemic and working from home, and I kind of happened upon the group that that led me to all of this. So,
do you remember what your first game or several games were like?
Drinking from a fire hose. I think my recollection of my first game is that I was the poisoner, and didn't get bluffs until a couple days in, and just was kind of claiming mayor and asking people in public, well, I'm brand new. How should I be playing my role of mayor?
Classic.
That kind of stuff. But I was pretty much hooked from the get-go.
Well, that was going to be my exact next question is when would you say you were hooked? But I guess instead we'll switch to what hooked you about the game?
I think everything. I like social deduction games. I like being sneaky. I like kind of puzzling things out. It has a lot of variability. It's just it ticks every box for me. Really, it's my favorite game by far.
What other social deduction games are you familiar with that you played before?
Sure. I mean, I've played Werewolf and Mafia. I think uh, I really like the Resistance, and one I really like too is A Fake Artist Goes to New York, which has got like some different kind of vibes to it,
Hmm.
where everyone thinks I'm the fake artist because my drawing skills are so bad, but um, no, that's clearly a house. I don't know what you're looking at, uh, but those are the main ones. And I've played a few different other ones, but I think the Resistance was the first like social deduction kind of board game that I was like, oh yeah, yeah, this is it.
Mine was One Night Ultimate Werewolf, which is still a great game. And not only was that really my first social deduction game, but really my first board game in general. Uh, just that premise just hooked me.
Yeah,
How often do you get to play each week? Would you say?
I try to play at least once a week, and it's probably 2 or 3 games a week at minimum on a typical week. I might get a second night in, uh, but it's not as much as it once was. It's not as much as maybe I would like to, but I try to stay at least pretty regular with it.
Do you get to play in person at all, or have you played much in person?
I've played almost exclusively online. But when I think just this past weekend was a game convention here by where I live, and for uh, I think I played 7 games over the course of the convention, and it's the most I've played in person, kind of bunched up together like that, and I really enjoyed it. It was. I mean, it's always a good time, but I think it's the most fun I've had playing in person. There are certain things that I really like about online, but there were definitely things I appreciated about, kind of branching out into the real world.
What about those differences? How, like, in what ways would you say they were different?
So I mean, there are definitely. I think some of the things that I'm always probably going to prefer online and be my main thing. Some of them are just specific to me. It's hard for me to see tokens, and like if the lighting isn't really good, it's hard for me to hear people across the circle.
Hmm.
It's just my failing faculties as I age, I guess. But
That's pretty common in convention settings too, unfortunately.
yeah, yeah. And I like being able to take notes. I like being able to, you know, puzzle things out at night and that kind of stuff. But um, the the in person, it was just really cool. And maybe this is kind of convention setting or whatever, but there were times we were playing. I think one of the last games I played was with a full family and parents and 2 kids, and they were all sat together, and that was just brought such an interesting, fun dynamic, and
Hmm.
just meeting new people. And I'm pretty familiar with the game, so like being able to just kind of help people along and coach up my evil team or kind of help people suss stuff their information out it was just a lot of fun.
So I feel like with Clocktower, there's kind of a progression of kind of being a new player to an intermediate player to an experienced player. What would you? I don't know if you agree with that progression or not, but I'm just curious what you think about that.
Yeah, I think that's definite. There's definitely a progression. I would definitely call myself an experienced player, but not an expert player. There are
I
definitely,
I
uh,
deliberately avoid the word expert for just in general because I don't. What does an expert Clocktower player even mean? I don't know.
yeah. I mean, I certainly probably win around statistically the amount I should win, and I still make a lot of bonehead mistakes, or things in retrospect that I should have known that or processed that differently. But uh, I definitely think for me it was probably like probably was about 6 months of playing before I really kind of had a handle on, didn't have to say, now what does that do, or like really think about different interactions and stuff. And
Mhm.
even once I got past that point, I think just, it took a while longer before I was like kind of thinking ahead, or, trying to think of different ways to game something out and play it differently, or what have you.
So when you sit down for a game, you're getting ready to draw your token, online or in person. What are you thinking before that point?
I mean, I'm hoping that I draw a red token. I mean, if I'm being honest and true to myself, ideally the most fun minion on the script. But I think I'm born to be a lackey. So I'd rather be an underling than the head guy. I don't think that's uncommon necessarily, but
Right.
you know, uh, once I get the token, I'm just like, thinking, okay, what's the plan with this thing?
So you prefer playing evil. How do you feel about playing outed evil, and not necessarily characters that involve that in its playstyle, like Goblin, but just like in general? How do you feel about the idea of playing outed evil?
I mean, it's
Appropriate
not.
because we do have outed evil loaded up here.
I mean, it's not ideal, but it can definitely be fun. As long as you've got a group that isn't going to like can just shun you. And I try not to shun players who I at least like to check in with. I'm pretty sure you're the evil twin, but let's hear what you have to say, kind of stuff. Um, I'm good with it.
Not to brag, I guess, too much about our group right now, but I feel like our group is pretty good about that. Some groups struggle with, for example, Vizier, a character who's automatically outed evil by its design. Some groups just does not mesh with that. I feel like our group's never had a problem with that, and I've always been pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I think one of the dynamics of our, having a group that just kind of, I mean, not without fail, but like, I think we have kind of a social contract or friendship, a lot of friendships developed and stuff. So I think it makes it a lot easier to play online. I don't think I would play nearly as much as I do if it was like just a random assemblage of online people. But so I think we do have kind of a special group, so it's fun.
Yeah. Is there any other kind of characters you like to play, or any types of do you like info characters? Do you like characters that are more passive? What do you like there?
I mean, I'm going to want to be in the mix. So, I mean, I'd like to get info. I like anything that's going to give me info. I like the savant. I like fortune teller. I like empath. I like info, but you kind of just have to play whatever you draw, I guess.
Is there anything
Or you
that
can just make it all up. I've
right?
been known to do that too, but haven't we all?
Are there any particular characters you prefer to avoid when you're like, you just really hope you don't draw that token?
I mean, I can't ever remember like getting Tinker or Butler or Mutant and not being a little bit bummed. um, like,
Fair.
And so just kind of your more vanilla outsiders are not my favorite, but someone's got to be the outsider, and sometimes it's going to be you. So.
That's how I feel about being the demon. So. So thinking about the base scripts, which of the three scripts do you think is your favorite and least favorite?
I think for me they're all pretty equal right now.
Okay.
It hasn't always been that way. I mean, I used to kind of have a clear least favorite of BMR, but I think a lot of that's kind of residual from when we were playing on Zoom and a game could take 3 or 4 hours, and that can just, and I'm not even sure I was in a lot of those games, but I think that the brand had been so damaged by that like I had it in my head that BMR's like kind of a beast. I really like BMR. It might be narrowly my favorite today, but I really like all of them. Sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, it's just TB, and then you play TB and it's always great. So I like them all.
Cool. Yeah, I've worked very hard to try to not make games go long. I really try to, no matter how many players I have, I try to keep it under 2 hours. But I won't get in that spiel because I did recently, in a few episodes ago, that hasn't yet aired as of this time, go into a pretty big spiel on that and talk about that. But yeah.
I think, even a really good movie can outwear its welcome. You see a runtime and you're like, do I really want to commit to that? So even something that's good is probably better if it's under 2 hours, and we all have to use the bathroom at some point.
It's probably a pretty good recap of my spiel, actually. So you might say it better than I did.
I'll cut that out then, and let's leave your spiel unhindered.
It's fine. All right. So, what kind of characters do you like to bluff? Whether you're good or you're evil, are there what's your bluffing strategy?
It really varies depending on the script, depending what I drew, just kind of depending on who might be sitting around me or what. I usually try to come up with a kind of a bare bones day 1 or 2 kind of strategy on night 1. Like I like to pick 3 people at random I'm going to talk to, and kind of these are the kind of things I might bluff depending on the character and where I'm at. I don't think I just kind of have a go-to on stuff.
So what are your thoughts on the mechanic of madness? Cerenovus, mutant, pixie, harpy, etc.
Love it. I like madness. I think it's fun. I think it's fun to be the Cerenovus. I don't find being made mad that taxing. There can be times when I'll want to break it and not get executed for it, and understandably so. I think the only tough times I've really had are like, and it's just kind of a function of the mechanic. I don't really love being Sarah-locked or doing Sarah-locking. I think that can stop feeling fun after a bit. And I don't like the corner I've been painted in, and others have as well, as when you're a mutant and you're mad as an outsider and it's just a death sentence, and it's just like, oh, I just swallowed a grenade. Great.
Yeah, and for anybody watching this, if you go back and watch Navian's episode, they had some thoughts on specifically about not wanting to Sarah-lock players. Not that they would stop other people from Sarah-locking players, but they themselves don't want to do it.
I mean, I've definitely done that to someone. But,
I have too.
It's been a while.
Yeah. Probably best used sparingly, maybe. I don't know. All right. Well, I do like to ask about some of the more divisive characters, just because I think it's a fun topic. And the first one is particularly appropriate right now. How do you feel about Snake Charmer?
I'm fine with Snake Charmer. I like the Snake Charmer. It's a fine role. Happy to be representing the Snake Charmer. To be here.
Do you find with either Snake Charmer or Goon, or from Azephiles on the script, do you try to turn evil, or do you prefer to stay good? Or you just let it come as it comes?
I'm happy to turn evil. It's maybe borderline trying. Yeah. I'm happy to abandon ship and join and come back home and join the dark side of the Force. Yeah.
All right. How do you feel about a poppy grower? Whether, especially if you're on the evil team, but also if you play as a poppy grower or with it on your team.
I mean, I like poppy grower. It's a great role if you're good, it's a challenge for sure. But for the evil team, but I like the poppy grower. I like, I've definitely killed my demon in a poppy grower game. I've definitely been killed as the demon in a poppy grower game, and them's the breaks. But I think it's pretty cool. I think it's a pretty cool character. I like it.
I imagine you have to like it at least a little bit to have chosen this script for it.
Yeah, I'm not. I chose this script because one, shout out Manny, but two, it's got my absolute favorite character, and I was just hoping beyond hope I would draw a psychopath, and it didn't happen. But any script that has psychopath on it, I'm hoping to be a psychopath.
Right. What do you like about psychopath?
I've just had so many fun, memorable moments with the psychopath, winning Rochambeau, as the psychopath, as as good and killing the psychopath, as in a heretic game, losing Rochambeau to win the game. I liked hide it for a while and spring it on people. I like to bring it out of the gate right away and just have that dominate discussion for a while. I'm just all in.
Excellent. All right. Well, let's go ahead and talk about another character that's on the script. How do you feel about Heretic?
Now, here's the downside of the script. It's probably the role I like the least. I don't find it fun. I'm sure there's games with. I think I've enjoyed every game of Out at Evil I played. It's on the script. I'm sure Heretic was in place for some of those. But the role, if you take the role in isolation, I could definitely do without it.
Fair enough. All right. Well, moving on here. How do you feel about Atheist?
I've enjoyed every Atheist game I've been in.
Right.
So, I think it's a fun little, different experience. Like a Riot game is kind of a different deal. An Atheist game is just, a different flavor of, it's like when one of those limited time Oreos. I mean, it's an Oreo. It's pretty darn good. But maybe it's a once in a while kind of thing.
Yeah, last time I ran a script with Atheist on it, you were the Cerenovus, and Guami was the Vizier. And I really like pairing the Vizier with the Atheist because, if you're a Vizier, you can say, oh, well, I'm actually the Atheist. Or if you're the Atheist, the storyteller, I'm just going to go, hey, here's your Vizier. And, but what I thought was fun about your play is night one as a Cerenovus, knowing that it's not an Atheist game, you made yourself mad as the Atheist. So right off the bat, you have two Atheist claims, and I don't know. I feel like in Atheist games or in non-Atheist games, but with Atheist on the script, Evil needs to do more weird things to make it look like an Atheist game. And I don't know if that was your intention, but I thought that was a good way to kick that off.
I mean, I think doing more weird things is just we should probably be at least 10 to 15% more weird as Evil.
I saw a comment the other day. I can't remember. I'm going to paraphrase it as best I can, but it was something along the lines of Clocktower is a game where you have just do increasingly weird events so that you have something to tell other people in other games. And I thought that was a pretty appropriate.
I find myself, over explaining what happened to my family, after the game's over, and they have like this much knowledge. And I'm like, well, here's what happened, but for you to understand that, you need to know this and this, and like, I'd get a lot
Yep.
of nodding and smiling. I think it's like talking about your fantasy football team or something. It's really interesting to you, but
Right.
maybe not to others.
All right. Well, one more divisive character to talk about is Legion. How do you feel about that?
I like Legion, and I've enjoyed Legion games. I will say, uh, I have found it kind of, you know, I think it's the nature of the challenge, but like challenging in large games to be a Legion. Even if you know who all the Legion are, there's no way you can see each other and get your stories straight. And uh, I've I've ruined it for other Legion before by saying, like, trying to sell a Vortox world or something when we had the only two good people left, like sitting between someone claiming empath and I screwed it all up. And I've had it, we've been outed for various reasons. I think when there's a big group of Legion, you know, any conspiracy, you need a small group.
The topic of Legion came up recently in a chat, and basically it was about the topic of bluffs in Legion because there's kind of different ways you can do bluffs. But I always mention in our group, and I'm sure this changes a lot from group to group, but so many players, yourself included, have played so many games together, sometimes literally hundreds of games together, that I find Legion games I usually just run them with three bluffs for all the same three bluffs for all of Legion. And I'm sure it is a challenge, not doubting that. But I feel like this group does a really good job at coordinating and quickly kind of sharing that information. It's not always perfect, but I think that's kind of the point anyway. And it's always, I think, interesting to watch.
Yeah, it's. I'm sure it's sometimes it might be more interesting to watch than to than to do, but I I've gotten less and less. I'm pretty competitive by nature. I don't know. Like when I play games, I like to win. I think that I'm certainly not unique in that way, but I think I've become less and less results oriented with the game, and just kind of more trying to focus on what I find fun about it, and just maybe it's just an opportunity for me to get off one liners sometimes. Whatever.
Yeah, that's good. So speak a little bit more on that, though. What do you find? When you're trying to get fun out of this game, like what are you doing? What is your thought process when you're playing this game?
Usually I like to build a little team, and I just go in with someone, say like, I'm going to trust you, I hope you trust me, here's my info, let's try to expand the circle of trust and build things that make sense. And I that's specifically when good. The And as that info kind of expands, and the puzzle lays itself out, it's usually kind of culminating into a final moment, a final three, and like, what do we know, what do we think, um, uh, what explains this, and that's fun. I think it's just fun to hang with people and do something we've done a bunch of times, but it's different every time somehow. Like the the variations, the way people play it is always different. It's unlike any other game I can think of, where I've played a lot of games to death. I don't see how I can play this one to death. I think the other thing about that, and maybe I'm getting off the original question you asked,
Oh, you're fine.
but is I mean, just the generosity of this game. That there's always a new character coming out. That like you can do a bunch of different scripts. You can like try things. There's like resources all over the place. But just like if I can't imagine, I'm sure at some point I'm going to stop playing Clocktower, but I don't think it's going to be because I've seen it all and done it all.
This game, I guess, compared a lot to tabletop games like Dungeons and Dragons, and I think that kind of hits on that similarity, is where it's very, obviously the moderator or storyteller role is important, but it's really the players that I think make the difference. And you're given different scenarios, and the players run with it within a certain confines. And yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I just think that's a good comparison there.
That's fair.
So I do have a new segment here to try out. I planned this a whole about 5 or 10 minutes beforehand, okay. So we'll see how it goes.
Lay it on me.
But I'm calling this experimental multiple choice. The first multiple choice is Preacher, Lycanthrope, or Banshee.
Without context is
no context. Just make of that whatever you will.
Preacher.
Preacher? Why?
I like Preacher. I mean, it's really I think it's really powerful. It's really straightforward. And I'm always happy to be the Preacher. I've never been the Banshee though. Maybe I should have picked Banshee. But because I think it's one of the, I mean, it's very new. It's one of the few roles I haven't been yet. Yeah, Preacher is classic. For an experimental character, it's classic. How's that?
Yeah, there you go. What if you're on the other side of Preacher? You're the minion who's been preached.
I mean, it feels less good, I guess. But gosh, there was this one game that I think it was Guami was a preached widow or something, and it had disastrous results. I
remember that.
I wasn't Guami, so it was hilarious, but I can see how it would be less good.
Yeah. So basically, the interaction with Preacher and Widow, and I ran that game, and I had to kind of figure this out on the fly because it was kind of a new interaction for me. But basically, it makes it so the Widow doesn't see the grimoire and never sees the grimoire. I don't think. Maybe it's Jinx now. I can't remember. But basically, a widow ping still goes out, so it's kind of like, you get all the downside and none of the benefit.
It's that really expensive firework that you bought, and it just isn't.
Or maybe the ping goes out later. I can't remember. I'd have to look it all up, but it's not very great for the widow. Yeah, Preacher is interesting because I feel like that's probably a character I could put on the divisive list. I just don't feel like it's used like a ton. But a lot of people don't like it because of because how it feels to be a minion who's preached. But
well, dump's the brakes, kids. Let's.
I believe at one point in time it was planned for BMR for Batman Rising because it's pretty similar to Exorcist, but I can't remember why they removed it or what the reasoning for that was. All right, next question: Ogre, Hatter, or Golem?
Golem.
Golem, interesting. Why Golem?
Golem's cool. I just like Golem. I like that you nominate someone, they die.
Golem smash.
And then you just it's time to exit stage right. They're going to kill you because you can't nominate again. But it's kind of like Snake Charmer without the big downside. I mean, you only get the one shot, but if you go after someone and they don't die, I'm convinced they're the demon. They may not be the demon. There's other things that could be at play, but I think it's a cool character. Ogre, I mean, I'm not necessarily on board with the ogre hype. I'm
offended.
Even though I recently had the experience of being picked by 3 ogres in one night, um, that was did a little something for Robbie's little ego. I know 2 of these people are lying, but they're lying about me.
That was fun. Uh, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Well, I mean, I guess I kind of know it is about Ogre, but Ogre's probably my favorite game or favorite character in the game, just altogether. Right.
Well, am I getting kicked out now? Is this interview over?
End of interview. No. Yeah, we do have 2 more questions for experimental multiple choice. You might be noticing the pattern here because now we're going to ask about minions. Mezephiles, Vizier, or Fearmonger?
Mez.
What do you liked about the Mez?
I like Mez. Mez is just cool. I like the words that storytellers pick. I like people faking Mez and just talking about nonsense. I like joining, adding someone to the evil team. The I joined a team late as a Mez turned person once, and that and we won as evil. I liked that. I I I will tell you one of my least favorite minions is Fearmonger. I don't think it's that great. I and Mez is just cool. I like Mez.
It's fun to run a game and not even have Mezephiles in, but at the end of the day, a bunch of people are just randomly shouting out food names because somebody put it out there that the Mez word was a food.
Sure.
All right, one more. Lil Monster, Leech, or Yagababble?
Leech. I think Leech is my favorite demon.
Okay.
To be, it's cool because you kind of just have like that. You got a little bit of armor or something. You feel like you've at least got some margin for error, but you really don't because you're not the person that matters. It's your host that matters. It's got a little built-in kind of puzzle master drunkenness puzzle with it, and I just really like Leech. I like Yaga too, but I haven't. I don't know that I've played in a game where it really kind of reached its full potential. I've been that a couple of times, and it's I died an early death not related to it at all, or I think it's a really cool, exciting role that I've yet to participate in a game where it really just kind of hit on all cylinders, but it's super new. Little Monster, I'm not on the hate train with Little Monster, but that's probably not among my favorite demons, but I really like Leech.
All right, well, we got one more question here. So looking at this Outed Evil script, what character would you like to be in real life?
I would say on this script specifically, probably Philosopher. Sam, I don't know if you can tell or if your viewers can tell. I contain multitudes. I'm deep as the deepest river, and I'd like to think of just having all the deep thoughts and trying to think of the ways to the meaning of life and the ways to solve Clocktower games.
All right, well, sounds good. Before we go, I don't know if you have anything, but is there anything that you would like to plug? I don't know if you really have anything to share or not.
I'm going to plug the channel you're watching right now, Hard Claim, all day. They do great work over there at Hard Claim, but my own internet space is pretty limited, so I don't have any Kickstarters to plug or anything like that. But here's what I'd plug. if you are watching this video and you haven't played Clocktower, you're really interested in Clocktower, just give it a go. And I'm sure you could message Sam and he could set you up with something.
Absolutely. Nina has a question. What do you think about Slayer?
Slayer's great.
How's it feel to be shot by Nina the Slayer on day 2?
If kudos to Nina. In any game I'm in with Nina, I'm rooting for Nina above myself. She's, I'd happily serve as her minion anytime, and it's an honor to die at her sword or whatever.
And it is one of my favorite clips to watch. So if anybody wants to watch that clip, it is on the Hard Claim a Twitch channel called Not Robert.
Does anybody have any suspicion on anyone as a demon candidate?
Yeah, I think it's Nina.
I think it's somewhere on the left side of the room, personally.
Well, Robert seems to be the furthest left, so that would be him.
Yep.
Not Robert.
I think it could be on the right side of the ground.
You know what? I will claim Slayer and pick Robert.
Nina claims Slayer and chooses Robert. Robert dies.
Good shot.
The game is over.
Oh my goodness! Wow! Well done, Nina.
Well done. Oh, nice.
Wow, nice job.
Now I'm having flashbacks.
It's such a great clip.
I mean, you could just if you need to pad time, Sam, I'm sure there's plenty of clips of me doing dumb shit.
And many more to come in the future, I'm sure.
God willing, absolutely.
All right, well, Robert, thank you for joining us.
Cool, thank you.
All right, and that's it for this week. We'll be back next week with another episode of Hard Claim.